So was just chatting here with Dan and Tina about how we use GitLab, how we organize our issues, how do you find issues. We use issues for everything. There are so many issues. How do we track them down? So I thought that I would share my system for using issues, and then that way Dan and Tina could grill me on, with questions, and hopefully anybody watching this recording on YouTube can also be helped. And so the one thing I don't do is I do not use to-dos. And so you can kind of see this list right here has a whole bunch of to-dos. And the reason why I don't use them is because they automatically disappear. So whenever you change an assignee or change a milestone, it will automatically mark your to-do as done. And so for me, that was a frustrating process because I wanted a list of things I could count on, and this was quite ephemeral. So instead, what I use is Gmail. And what I do is I create a filter so that everything that comes in that is tagged with @WilliamChia, which is my GitLab handle, goes into this folder here. And so what's nice about this is you can see it says like, okay, I have 3 new pings. I labeled it GitLab ping. Let's see actually if this has some stale state in it. But yeah, it's basically these top 3, and then these other ones that are unread are things that I was pinged on. So this is my list of things that I've been pinged on. So I can, essentially go in here, look at what I was pinged on, and go and decide whether I want to respond to this or whether I need to create another issue from it or whatever it is that I need to do. And this is how I manage that state. Now, the way I got to this is by creating a filter. So if we go to the Gmail settings and you go to filters and blocked addresses, you can see that this is the filter that I use. So I just, we can even edit it to like look at. So if it's from GitLab at like this address, those are where all the emails from GitLab come. And I just basically search for my GitLab handle if it has these words. And then if it matches that search criteria, I skip my inbox and I apply this label. I call it GitLab ping. And that is how I get to this view of the world. Now, what's nice about this is it shows me the latest stuff bubbles to the top. But for example, here's the issue that John opened up that I was pinged on once upon a time, but I wasn't pinged on the most recent thing. And so what's nice is you can see like, this is just like somebody added another email to it, but it didn't ping me. So it just floats there at the bottom. But if somebody actually mentions me again, then it'll go to the top of this list. So that's a kind of nice way that this list works. And I can work out an email. And then the other one is if I'm like, I remember there's some issue that I was pinged in once upon a time, and I need to find that. And here I can use Gmail search to find that really easily. So for example, I think the other day I was like, I remember I created a launch checklist eons ago when I did the GKE launch, but I can't find that issue. Like what tracker was it in, whatever it was. So I can search through this list of GitLab pings like GKE launch, and I can see here is like a launch checklist. And very quickly, I can basically search globally of any issue in any tracker that I've ever been pinged in. And then if I actually want to go look at this issue, I can just click to view it on GitLab. Here's the state. Okay, I can remember these are all the things I had on my checklist, and now I can use this again. So that's kind of my quick overview on how I use Gmail and the email notifications to search and sort and manage my issues. Does that kind of work with what you guys are doing or with what you all are doing? And you guys?
Yeah, the only question I have is, so what you set up now, anything that comes net new into your inbox will go into that label. They'll skip the inbox. But what if I want to, what if, like I have all of my stuff in my inbox right now related to that GitLab at mg.gitlab.com. How do I apply it to my current inbox and sort of move them all kind of in lump sum, do you know?
So you can. So as on a new one that comes in, I believe if you click on this drop down, do filter messages like these. And in this case, it's looking specifically for this list. It's going to try to determine or deviate what it is. But what I can do is I can click on search and see what all those issues would be. And there is a pretty nice feature that when you go to create filter, you can say apply to the matching conversations. So basically you can create the filter, do it in your inbox, and then apply the filter to everything in your inbox. And it'll go like shunt it over, move it out of your inbox over to that label if that's what you wanted.
Yeah, that's cool. Awesome. Thank you.
So just to confirm, Google's Gmail search is pretty awesome. What you're doing here, though, is you're filtering down to just the stuff coming from basically, effectively, the GitLab system, so that you can apply that search specifically to the issues basically that have come in or generated traffic for you.
Yeah, that's correct. And I use two different filters. So I use one filter that is every single thing that GitLab sends me for whatever reason it thinks I need to know this. And that goes into one bucket with one label. And then the GitLab ping is only things that have my name that I was tagged. And so this is part of my workflow. Like if I'm not pinged on a label, then I'm blind to it. So sometimes if I want to go keep track of an issue or something, I might ping myself. Maybe that's a bit of an anti-pattern, but that way at least I know it shows up in here. And then there are other ways, there are other views. So for example, I use boards. Like we were just talking about the, like in our product marketing board. So there are other inboxes I use, I guess. So for example, this beautiful competitive intelligence board that Dan created. Like this is an awesome view because I can just go here and say, okay, what's on the docket for other kind of DevOps tool pages? And I don't need to tag all myself into all of this. So if somebody's created a nice board that gives me a good view, I don't necessarily do that. But if it's something that I need to action on, that's where this filter comes in. Because if somebody pings me like @William, that usually means I have something to do or some reason to see that issue. So those are kind of my two views into like using boards and using email.
Cool. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, that's good.
Awesome. I'll pop this one up on YouTube and maybe other folks will find it helpful as well.
Indeed. Cool.
Record on this computer. Okay. So we decided to come back and record a little bit more because there was a question about notifications. And so the idea is, can you choose how GitLab notifies you? And so if you're on a project, the idea is I kind of have these two folders. I have one that's everything from GitLab and one where I'm specifically mentioned, and I only pay attention to the specifically mentioned. So the question would be, why not just torque down my notifications? So if you're in a project, you can go and set your notifications. And so I have a global setting. And that global setting can be set to one of these things. But you can say, watch for any activity, only receive notifications for threads you have participated in, only receive where you are @mentioned, or disabled. So in theory, what I should really do is I should set my global notifications and go to all of my projects and set them to like on mentioned if I really wanted that. And that would then essentially give me the same thing where like GitLab would only email me when I'm @mentioned on something. And so I potentially am not making full use of the, I could like scope down my notifications. I think originally when I set this up, I wanted to do it at the Gmail level because I wanted both. Like I wanted to say, okay, give me a way to use Gmail search to search like globally for all issues. And give me a way to search Gmail just for things where I'm @mentioned or to like, but in theory, you could do that. And that might, if I set that as my global setting, then I could, then GitLab would only email me and I wouldn't have to parse for that.
Yeah, I have to say, I would argue that, as a participant on the project, like for instance, I just had an old issue that was closed that I needed receipts for in order to submit something for one of my MDF submissions. And I just got notified and I was like, oh, finally they posted the invoice, but they didn't mention me. And had I not, had that flagged in that particular project, that I wanted anything that I was a participant in, I wouldn't have known that it was up there. And I would have to seek and find, right?
That's a good call. So I think this is basically saying GitLab only email me when I'm @mentioned, but I would then lose state. So for example, here I get not only the email where I'm mentioned, but the whole thread.
That's right.
So that you could possibly test, but I think that also has that benefit of just leaving this kind of global, which is kind of like, email me on everything.
You could do the participate. You'll only receive notifications. I think that's what I have.
So it emails you the whole thread.
Yeah, and ones that you've participated on. So like you're at the global level, that means you got everything. But if I haven't ever been on an issue, I don't know that I would want to be notified. But if I've participated in one shape or form over the project or over the issue, excuse me, I might want to know eventually down the road.
Yeah, see, this is a good call. I set up my email like a year and a half ago, quite possibly before more granular notification shipped. So, although maybe not, maybe I just didn't understand them. So maybe I should go back through and set my global settings to something like participate, but you kind of get the same effect. So that is pretty fun. So I think with that, we covered most of it.